I guess it was on some of these online groups that we somewhat connected. And I'm going to throw one of these points at you that you brought up. This was on the Drums and Drummers group on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. So nice group. It's a big group. Very big group.
It's a big group. And you made this post, and I'll read it back to you. Help me understand why a right-handed drummer would benefit from relearning all grooves open-handed.
It's a loaded question, okay?
Absolutely.
It was a loaded question. And I knew that it was a loaded question. I was trying to ask it in a way that was like not going to be dismissive of somebody else's opinion. But I could expound on it a little bit more here because we've got a little bit more time. So practice time is really precious and really valuable. One of the best pieces of advice I got at a drum clinic early on in my career when I was a student was one of the clinicians said, practice now while you still have time. You know, this was before I had a wife and kids and, you know, bills and all of that kind of stuff. You know, when you're a student, if you've got time to practice, just practice as much as you possibly can. Make practicing your job. Make getting great at music and listening to music. All of that is practicing. It's like they said in the movie Elf. He said, make work your new favorite. He said, make practicing your new favorite. Because it's so precious, I want to make sure that the things I'm spending time on are going to have the most benefit to me as a player. And so when I see people that are like, hey, I'm enamored with somebody because they're playing open-handed, I'm enamored with it too, but that doesn't make me want to switch over to it. It's a redundant skill. My opinion is pick an orientation, whether you're playing cross or you're playing open-handed, and get as great at playing as you possibly can. What you're going to find is there are actually, and this is something I've been really coming to lately, there are advantages to playing open-handed, and there are advantages to playing cross-handed. And they will expose themselves, and what you'll find is they're equal, and they actually zero themselves out. So whatever advantages you're going to gain here are going to become disadvantages when you're here. When you're doing this, now you're switching. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, are you going from left-hand lead? Are we really, or are we kind of doing what Ringo did, which is lead with his left hand on a right-hand kit, which kind of leads you down to a different path? So I'm kind of more on the side of, listen, and I've thought about this a lot, and I bet you have too.
Yeah.
And this is a whole nother Mythbusters. When you get a left-handed kid, do you start them on a right-handed drum set? Do you start them on a left-handed drum set? Or do you start them on a right-handed drum set, cross-handed, and just say, hey, listen, the piano, it doesn't accommodate you, neither does the drum set. I don't even know if I know the right answer, but I know that it's an important question.
I think I've encountered that so many times, and I don't think there is an answer to it. At this point, I feel like, because I've got two kits in my teaching studio, so there's obviously the student and myself. The student can see me playing constantly. If what I'm doing doesn't appeal to them and they're left-handed and they are dead set on playing left-handed, I'm cool with it. Like, I think that's part of the important thing here in terms of misconceptions and myth busting is I don't think you're saying playing open-handed is bad or wrong, or
I'm saying it's amazing. And I'm saying that This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm saying pick one, but I think one of the things that's a huge waste of time is doing this thing where I'm learning all this complicated stuff like this, and then I take that same time to learn all the complicated stuff like this. I've known one guy in my life that could do that extremely well, and you don't know who he is. This guy named Clyde Connors played in the Airmen of Note, which was the naval jazz band. He could literally swing, swing,
wow.
I mean, could do this whole thing, and it was like that was his shtick. And he's like, he literally is switching to traditional left-handed. And that was his shtick. But you know what? At the end of the day, nobody really cares.
No.
It's all about, does that person really make me connect with the song? Is their passionate playing, like really serving the song? And then at that point, it doesn't matter whether it's like this or anything else. I mean, if somebody, I've had some friends and students that have had various differences in their anatomy that cause them to hold the sticks in radically different ways. I don't care.
No,
as long as they play great, it doesn't really matter to me.
No,
it doesn't matter to me whether they're playing open or they're playing like this, or if they were playing with their feet. It really doesn't matter. It's just pick a style. But there's too little practice time for me to have people like going, okay, now let's play all the stuff left-handed. I'm going, listen, there's a world of styles. There's a ton of language on the snare drum that we can be learning to move around the drum set. There's just so much more to work on than, for me, what is a redundant skill. Now, I'll give you a really good example of my friend, legendary drummer in Nashville, Eddie Bayers, probably one of the most recorded drummers in Nashville history. Started out playing with the Judds. He was right-handed, got in a motorcycle accident, crushed his left hand, could no longer take the pounding of that left hand. So he moved his left hand to the hi-hat and went to this thing and had to relearn how to play. I mean, you got to do what you have to do. I do the exact same thing. Rick Allen.
Absolutely. Yep.
Rick Allen has done a phenomenal job with his situation. And, I mean, you ultimately you do what you have to do. But for anybody who doesn't have any problems like that, my recommendation is pick an orientation and get to work.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with you anymore.
I know. Well, that's kind of a point that we connected on. I went, this guy, who's this guy? This is the one guy that actually knows what I'm talking about here.
Well, I think, again, and I don't want to be throwing any stones here, but I think part of this is experience. And I mean, I've been teaching a long time. I know what works. Now, if I work with a student for 5 years and we develop skills and we work on this, why would we just all of a sudden change the role that our limbs are playing on the kit? It is okay for your right hand and your left hand to have a different job on the drum kit. I'm sorry.
Exactly. It's a different job. And so here's an argument. And I didn't even make this argument too much on that post because people don't like it, but it's true. I said, just remember, if you're 85% as good open-handed as you are with your cross-handed, that means every time you go to open-handed, you suck 15% more.
Absolutely. Now, I think the other thing here is that this is real drummer brain stuff. On the surface, this seems to make sense. It seems to be complex, which as drummers, hey, we want to overcomplicate things as much as we can because we're drummers. Listen, no one cares. If you go into the studio, if you go into the studio and you need to lay down an 80 BPM shuffle and you've absolutely nailed it and the band is just in seventh heaven, is the producer going to say, okay, that was pretty good, Jim, but now can you play it left-handed? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't at all. Well, certainly preaching to the choir on that one, Yeah, and that was funny. That was kind of one of the points that we bonded on.